Introducing people here since yesterday evening. Does anyone know his name? किसको मालूम है इसका नाम क्या है? Rohan Sequeira. Can you give him a round of applause, please? Rohan's been associated with Saltmarsh Media for 2 years, introducing so many people, and no one's introduced him until now. So thank you, Rohan, for all the great job you're doing, speaking kind words about us, flattering words about us, and I look forward to engaging with you to find out more about yourself. Someday I might introduce you. Now, what have I just done? What did I just try to do? मुन्ना भाई पिक्चर देखा है? वो जो स्वीपर है, उसका नाम पूछता है, जादू की झप्पी देता है. What does he really do? Building relationships. No? What was Munna Bhai famous for? He was a guy who people relate. Now I've just tried to create a relationship with Rohan. And that's what I think relationships are quite simply all about. It's about people to people, one to one. It's about connect. I think you can do fancy jargon in the office and you do all kinds of programs and off-sites and leadership bonding and all these great team building exercises. Ultimately, it's about relationships. And I'll come to this at the end of my slideshow. I spoke about this last year. Ultimately, it's about a relationship with who? So I was introduced as somebody who came in from HDFC Standard Life, right? Ex-CIO of HDFC Standard Life. That's the identity that is there to this group. By the way, I carry 5 other identities in the world outside. But if that is the identity which has been used here, then let me start why I am talking about this subject based on what I did there. So I joined in early 2001, HDFC Standard Life Insurance. It's the same company. The brand is now HDFC Life. The company is still HDFC Standard Life. And I reported to Deepak Satwalekar. Deepak Satwalekar reported to Deepak Parekh. That was the role that I had, 2 levels from Deepak Parekh. I met Deepak Parekh in my first month. In fact, I think within the first 2 weeks at a board meeting. Company was small enough for me to have reached the board meeting in my first month, right? And the first thing he said to me, and he didn't realize how much he gave away when he told me that. He asked me a question. Actually, it was more a comment. He said, Sunil, I know you've joined, but I hope you won't go around throwing our old systems out. This is a brand new company. I've just joined. What did he just tell me? I understood that they had a problem with their systems. Enough for the chairman to know about it. Why would he say that otherwise? So I said, sir, surely you've hired me for good reason, so I'm sure you want me to do whatever it is that is appropriate. I think it's important to do what is appropriate. We don't know what we do, whether it's right, whether we do what is wrong. We do whatever we have knowledge at the moment, and we do whatever we think is appropriate. So I went on from there. I must say I had a very, very empowered position. I didn't play the role of an IT person at all. I think I did a lot of IT things. I did a lot of business things. And I'm going to talk to you how I succeeded, what was the impact that I made. Then I'll run through the slides that I've got. As usual, I do use death by PowerPoint. But in the end, I have 3 slides on how it actually all worked for me that I hope you can take away with yourself. So I worked to actually understand business functions. I created a hub and spoke architecture in the company, which means that the company was actually setting up branches in different places. And I said, no, you will not do underwriting at each point. You will not do customer service at each point. You will not do medical at each point. You will not hire places of people at each place, but you will have a back office with a McKinsey came out with something called a hub and spoke architecture, and I circulated that paper. I made a presentation. I drove a change in the business model right at the beginning. So instead of rolling out branches, which were like 20,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet, we cut that in half. We set up a back office in Malad, and we actually had something what Bill Gates used to talk about, DNA, digital nervous system architecture, trying to create a virtual organization, basically a back office that synergized all of the functions, rather than something happening at every branch. This was done by being able to articulate to the business that you understood fundamentally what the business does, and that technology has a solution that can address this within the cost parameters, within the security parameters. HDFC and Standard Life, both of them are extremely or were extremely conservative organizations. They don't like to outsource. So even using a virtual private network was a challenge. If you remember, in 2000, companies were setting up their own network, private networks. And we were one of the first companies to actually adopt a virtual private network which came in from a service provider rather than our own, with tunneling and things like that. We were one of the first companies in financial services to actually outsource the data center. And I had to go to the board and show them that data center outsourcing was basically taking your data center and just putting it inside a cage and explaining a cage, showing them photographs. I gave them a virtual tour of what it actually means and showed them this is what it is, nobody else comes into it, and why am I doing it, first of all. So when they understood why you're doing what you're doing and what you're giving the business at what cost, that sort of went through. Standard Life, based in UK, had about 1,100 employees in IT. I had 7 when I joined, They had 1,100. And they never outsourced anything in those days. Nothing. Everything was in-house. Even their disaster recovery site was their own. And to try and show Standard Life how you have disaster recovery was an exercise. They had their primary site in Edinburgh, and you know how far the disaster recovery site was? Can somebody guess? Their DR guy came here to advise me, and he was shocked to find out that the connectivity between my site and my DR site was like 1,000 kilometers. And because of which I didn't have 100 Mbps. In those days, 100 Mbps was great, right? They had 100 Mbps. Well, their DR site was 6 kilometers away from their primary site. But that's how they worked. In those countries, you don't imagine disasters, we don't take into account seismic zones, you don't do all these things. Now try and get people to understand and explain all these concepts. That's really what I did on my whole journey, bringing in business process management, showing them what business process management is. Digitized workflow, I put together teams, took people from the business, and did pilots, created simulations, made them understand, didn't enforce anything onto anyone. Put together a team when they understood there was proper size to understand what back office and workflow is. I took that team to Maybank in Malaysia. I took that team to AXA in Australia, in the Sydney in the back office. I took that team to Singapore and showed them how these things work, opened their eyes up, brought them back. What's the result? I didn't have to tell them what to do. They had to ask me, sir, I want this. That's what you want. So yesterday, this morning, Arun asked, what do technology people really create, right? What does technology provide? And you all answered a future. And of course, he had other explanations for it. So when you said future, so what do we want in the future? Nice hotels to live in, to come to for conferences. Yeah? You have good rooms? It's the age of comfort. People prefer style over comfort. How many prefer? You think so? People prefer style over comfort? Satya was talking about the 2 watches yesterday, right? Healthcare, that's nice, But really what you want is, you want things to be more difficult or less difficult? Which one do you want? Simple. So what do you want in the future? The most complicated challenge for us today is actually to be simple. When we carry 3 devices with us, you have your iPad, you have a laptop, you have your phone, you have your second phone. You should have been able to do that only with our wives, having 2, 3, 4 ex-wives, bring your own. You should have been able to do that, but what the hell? You recognize this face? You can't see it on this, you can see it on that. That's Peter Drucker. This is about the previous industrial revolution that took place before us. And he said the most important challenge was to drive productivity in manufacturing. We've moved beyond that. Today it is to drive productivity of knowledge work and the knowledge worker. And anyway, I'm not going to go into this. I would have loved to have 40, 45 minutes. But you have other topics covering this. But that's really where you come in, is to be able to ultimately drive productivity. Doesn't matter if he's using social networks, 5 devices, working in the field. It's ultimately about productivity. I've shown this before, and I'm just going to run it just to create the premise. Treat IT as innovative transformation. The cloud is basically about doing what is core and not doing what is not core. Social is simply business today, right? BI is being able to measure business impact. Mobility is nothing but money, because your customer is where your money is, right? And be your own boss. That's what everybody wants to do. We coined that term last year in this room. Okay? I think I've even evolved beyond this. It's no longer, it's not technology-led business strategy, but I think it's technology blended. Everything has just got blended here. Functional excellence. Really in your department, somebody said that, go fix the email first, then talk about strategy, right? Everything has to happen like clockwork. That is a given, which means that your people below you, the people below them, they talk the same language. They're all experts. It can't be that you preach something, you're friendly with somebody, but the guy down the line says, "Mereko ye form bhar ke lao, fir admit karunga." Muna bhai has a lot of examples that you can bring into your office. And today you can't work with rules and protocols anymore. Someone said, you can't tell people what to do. Nitin Dhal was talking about leadership, right? You have to know what the CEO's agenda is, right? You got to know what is critical to the CIO. You have to know what is not critical to the CEO. Sorry. So whether it's CEO, whether it's COO, whether it's CFO, and you will find that their agendas are different. What is a CEO's priority will not be a CEO's priority and will not be a CFO's priority. And today there's another beast also, procurement. Anyone from procurement here? We think we are procurement. Today procurement plays, how many companies procurement plays an important role for IT procurement? I'm sure it's more than the hands that are going up. So you got to know the agenda. I used to call this leadership before, process leadership, knowing what's going on in each business unit. Today it's not about just knowing on. Today it's actually about even doing things in other business functions, even taking on those roles. So, you have friends. Everybody has friends, right? Somebody has 2-3 friends. You all have 2-3 friends who call you up for help. Kaun mobile kharidun? They call you. Kaun tablet lene ka hai? Should I take Android or should I take iOS or should I take Windows? People call you for those helps. If your CXOs in the company call you for help as a friend, then you're wanted. If you don't have a relationship with them, that they don't call you as a friend, you have a problem. So they need to be able to call you, because I don't think really they want you to tell them what they need to do. Really, it's touching what Arun talked about people knowing what they want. So let me get to that. And I think you need to be a consultant. I think what Arun was talking about, that you don't need external consultants probably. So there's a problem in the business. You better be the internal consultant who can come up and give an answer to that. Now the business guys usually are today, they're completely aware because IT is consumerized, right? So they're telling you what they want. But you probably know what they need. There's a difference between what they want and there's a difference between what they need. Your job is to figure out what they need and then be able to use a language, and we'll come to that. How do you then communicate with them what it is that they need to do? And that's what being a good consultant is all about. We've talked about change management itself. They may know what they want to do, they may agree what they need to do, but they don't know how to do it, because a lot of it is not about just going in and putting in technology, but it's actually about driving the change, right? It's about getting the people involved. It's about getting your processes modified. So it's a fusion of people, process, technology. Really, that all makes it happen. And the CIO is one of the very few CXOs in the company. We always know this. You touch all touch points in the company. How many people touch all touch points apart from procurement and accounts or HR? Very few get to touch all touch points, and you get to touch all touch points. And you can drive that change effectively, but you need to be a people person. You need to be a process person. Business value is something again and again we keep touting. These things don't change. These are fundamentals, right? You cannot change that. Create a boundaryless ecosystem. What's a boundaryless ecosystem? We talked yesterday about policies and boundaries and breaking boundaries. But really what you need is, today you work with so many vendors, partners, service providers. What you can do is build relationships. And what I did in my system was that when I outsourced and things like that, I made sure, for example, that the managing director of XYZ company had a meeting with my managing director. So I had key relationships. I defined a Gartner strategic transformational outsourcing model, and I had 4 or 5 key relationships there. Those 4 or 5 key relationships, I made sure that those people understood that the cause behind my organization was something they were aligned to, right? And those senior people, the MDs or the CEOs of those companies, I made them come and meet the MDs and CEOs of my company. I didn't assume that I was just the kingpin and be alone. I got them aligned. That's why, when I used that relationship, I built a relationship with my own CEO or CEO in that process. Apart from the fact that I got the companies bonded and the work then just happened. So 3 things to leave you with. At the end of the day, what is integrity? Integrity is about being authentic, right? Genuine. Genuineness has a depth. Just wanting to have a relationship with someone that I need to have a relationship with you doesn't happen. You need to know what it's all about. You must really want to do it. Okay, see, there will be companies in which a CIO will have strategic value, contribution, etc., and there will be many companies that just don't have that role for a CIO. You cannot be in that latter company and say that I want to be, a strategy, something like that, when that possibly doesn't exist. You got to accept that and move. You cannot have a success formula in every organization. I've had my set of failures, and I can use an example later on. There was a particular solution we wanted. I wanted X. All my users kept saying they want Y. End of the day, I failed to persuade them. I went with Y because you cannot go against the user at the end of the day. If you cannot persuade him, then you have to do what he wants. So there is a gap always. There is always a room for improvement, for growth, for growing as a human being. So integrity is about what kind of impression you create, with people. Simple things like being on time, how you present yourself, how you talk to them, not taking people for granted. Simple stuff you just learn about husband-wife relationships. No, if you can come to the office and respect those relationships, things will work better, yeah. Okay, listening. So, go and read. This is all about Dale Carnegie's communication skills, okay? It's from that inventory. Okay, communication is something you will find that it keeps coming back. Relationships is all about being in the present, which means being aware, being connected, being with the person, which is what I'm trying to do with you right now, right? Except you're listening to me. Body language. Your body language completely conveys whether you have genuineness or not. Jo dikhta hai, wo bikta hai. Okay, and be assertive. Don't try to push yourself on people. Don't be aggressive. Assertiveness means knowing that I'm right, being win-win basically, right? If you are seeking a life of fulfillment, a life of joy, a life of well-being within yourself, you must do the right thing. So these right things when you do, then you will get what you want. And you may not get what you want either. But you have to, your integrity cannot change because you have to change something, right? Knowledge. MBWA. What is MBWA? It's a very old one. By walking around, by wandering around, just keeping your eyes and ears open to what is going on, right? People select policies, everything is circulated, everything is there, you know what goes on in each function, but what really drives each function? What's really ticking? What's really happening? What is actually coming? Where's the bomb waiting to go off? The people below you, the people below them, have your eyes, ears, all sensors on, knowing what the hell is going on, and create that friendly, that environment to know, to have the clarity that you seek, because clarity is very important, right? So the other thing is knowing what's going on outside, but also knowing inside who you are. If what's going on outside is not aligned with who you are, you can't deliver. You have to walk away. You must recognize when there's something required here. I sync with that, I am passionate about it, I'm driving it. If I'm not doing it, you better leave it. Don't try to do something that you're not aligned to. And then conviction. I mean, if you bloody hell so much believe that what you are saying is absolutely right, nothing should stop you from doing it. Take out your fear, figure out what is the worst that would go wrong. How do I accept that something can go wrong, and figure out how do I deal with the worst that can go wrong, right? So if there's something that you want to do, there are things that you will have to do that you don't want to do. You have to move out of your comfort zone. It's never going to be comfortable. It's going to be very, very uncomfortable. It's going to make you lose sleep. When you lose sleep, get up and start working. Don't sort of sit there awake and getting yourself get worried and worked up. Get up and do something about it. An attitude, something, I will not go into the picture there, and we can talk about that later. But you must be very, this is taking everything we talked about in the first two with integrity and knowledge to a complete level that it has to be completely aligned with yourself. This is what I said about relationship is about you. So this has to be a very, very internal, passionate, motivated thing for yourself. If you're not motivated, passionate, and have conviction to talk, do something, and you're trying to do it from outside, it won't happen. Lead from the front. Nathan was saying you can't lead from the front. I guess your own team, you need to do mentor, but for your CEO, you got to lead him from the front. Your CEO wants to take the business problem, find initiatives, lead it, and find a solution, find a problem to it. That's what your CEO wants. Okay? Leaders are powerful. What is power? When you say something, it happens, which means that you have to be a kind of person that is able to move that whole ecosystem to get things to happen. Okay? And this is very, very deep. It's very fundamental. It's very thought-provoking. You really got to go back, go to the beach, take a walk, and think about what is power. Okay? Your body, your mind, your emotions, life energies, all this has to be circling around who you are. It's about knowing yourself, being aligned with yourself, and getting yourself to be, first of all, who you want to be before you can try and change somebody else. Can't do that, can you? Thank you.